Hello folks and welcome to Mod of the Year 2019. Now I know it's 2020, we're back from CES, it's time to sort this one out. Now you sent in all of your nominations earlier in the year and at the end of last year as well, so we've gone through and sorted them out, and in this video we're going to be going through the Casemod category. So for this particular category, all the builds started off with a case originally and then they've modified it to create what they've got here. So let's go through them. So to kick things off, we've got Chapolin, Colorado by Douglas Alves. Now, one of the interesting things about this mod is, of course, Douglas likes to do everything by hand largely. So there's a huge amount of work that's gone into it that maybe isn't as visible as you might first think. So, for instance, there's a distro plate on the back which he had to make by hand and glued together, and it's absolutely seamless. He's also redone all the cabling work, added acrylic panels throughout. The View 71 Thermaltake chassis that he starts off with is radically different now, and he's themed it all around the character Chapolin Colorado from the Brazilian TV show in the sort of 60s, 70s and 80s. Now, it's a very striking colour scheme and very difficult to pull off, but he's gone all the way through, and if you like that particular look, it's really quite effective. So next up is Metro Exodus by Toru mod. Now this one's built in the Thermaltake Level 20 Big Boy chassis, and basically it's themed in the sort of post-apocalyptic universe of the Metro world. And what he's done is he's gone through and added weathering effects throughout the whole chassis, along with 3D printing special details, and even making use of household items like pot and pan lids to be able to create the unique items that go into the chassis itself. There's a huge amount of work involved in the paint work and the general theming throughout, and it's a really effective mod. So next up is Iron Maiden by veteran modder Ali Abbas. Now Ali started this project quite late in the year last year, so he didn't actually get into a mod of the month because it was finished after the cutoff date. But luckily he finished it for mod of the year, and it's really quite a spectacular one. Now Ali is known for doing his competition work all by hand, and so that's exactly what he's done with his Cosmos C700M, and he's completely covered it in wooden detailing and other molded work to go with the sort of interesting Inquisition theme of this build, which is the Iron Maiden torture device. Now he's gone with a really quite a strong theme, trying to put iron work all throughout. He's modelled it up and painted it and weathered it to be as authentic as possible, and you can just tell from the amount of detailing work how many hours he's put into this project, and it's really quite something. Now, Radioactive RTX is a classic mod from Daniel Bolognese in that it's incredibly clean, and he's basically remade a lot of the case from scratch. He started with a Corsair 500D SE and has basically removed all the front, side, mid panels and everything, and then replaced it with custom laser cut acrylic versions, including a front reservoir, lovely metallic tubing, custom wiring, and he's even gone through and added some custom metal feet that he's given a sort of an angle ground finish, same as on the power supply shroud. It's a very effective color combination, and the fact that he's kept the interior so clean has meant that the colors really shine through and it fits the theme to a T. Project Minimalistic by AKMod is one of those ones that you probably recognize from not that long ago in the Cooler Master World Series, where it actually placed first in the Tower mod category. It's a fantastically detailed project where he basically removed the entire interior of the C700M and replaced it with a custom 10mm aluminium nickel-plated machined version. He's also then made reservoirs out of solid walnut, which he's then cleared up with epoxy to make them completely watertight. There's also custom cabling throughout and the beautiful use of the EK Lignum water blocks. There's even detailing on the outside in the form of leather work, where he's taken a leather and he's wrapped it around the outside handles just to add that little bit of finesse to keep up with the lovely interior work. It's an incredibly clean mod, a very deserving winner of that contest, but how will it do in this one? Evil Master is another project from the Cooler Master World Series, this time taking place in the Masterbots Q300P chassis, which is much smaller than most of the ones that people were choosing. Now, it may be smaller, but there's a huge amount of work because this whole case was done by hand. And actually all the tiny little pieces of acrylic, they all mesh together with lights on the inside. So you can find like a glowing lava effect, very kind of evil looking sort of project, just because he's filled every single thing with LEDs. Now, that takes an awfully long time, and it's incredible that he managed to go through all the different pieces and get them to mesh just right. It's a very interesting build, and one of those ones that maybe you wouldn't have looked at first glance, but actually the more you look into the project, you realize how much depth there is. Project Sentinel by TodMod is all about little details. So he's taken his Aerocool P7C1 chassis and basically reworked the exterior to fit the new theme of white, blue and red. So that involved creating a whole batch of new acrylic panels from scratch, new cabling work on the inside, details via vinyl plotters and other kind of stickers and things, and he's also gone through and painted other details on top. It's really quite a clean build and one which carries through its theme very well. Project Stealth by veteran modder Yuri Gabrielli is based on the core P5 chassis by Thermaltake and was done for their Thermaltake Invitational Season 2 for 2019. Now what he's done is he's reworked the whole exterior of the chassis with a series of acrylic panels all cut by hand to be able to turn it into a sort of a full-on Sentinel device with 2 Gatling guns on the side. Now it's proper bombastic and it's a very classic Thermaltake Invitational entry, really well finished though with some fantastic paintwork, and it's also quite difficult to get these particular angles and things done by hand. So it's a very difficult mod, especially with all of the custom cabling work. The theming is really on point, and actually for the theme that Yuri chose, which is quite a difficult one, he's done a fantastic job. You may recognize Project Realgar from the Cooler Master World series, where it placed 3rd in the Tower Mod category. Now Alessandro Zeti went to town on his SL600M chassis from Cooler Master, repainting the whole thing with a textured sort of off-white color, and then using red accents throughout. Now, those are only the small things. He's also gone to town making new panels by hand because this was an exercise to see what he could do without the aid of other external machinery or outsourcing. One of the other interesting parts is that he's actually constructed panels from scratch using coloured resin. So he's used red resin to create the mid plate and also details behind the motherboard tray and other cutouts on the front and the top. One of the little details that I've not seen in any other case mod as well is he's actually grown crystals to sit inside of the seams. So he put them along the seams of the front panel and also into the motherboard heatsinks themselves. And it's a really interesting little detail that, as I said, I've not seen before elsewhere and really caught my eye. The rest of the build is incredibly clean, with the GPU being placed around the back and an elegant water loop that all goes into the bottom of the chassis, looking very clean and very neat. Ferrari Project by AKMod PC Design is a celebration of all things Ferrari. Now what he's done is he's taken a different approach this time and actually coated the whole build in leather, which has been hand stitched to follow the contours of the C700M chassis. Now this is actually really quite difficult to do because the leather has to conform to the different shapes, and the shapes themselves move in 3 dimensions, so trying to stitch things all around and make sure that everything remains nice and smooth and elegant is really difficult. Now this was done to emulate the interior of a Ferrari, having that elegant sort of plush look that you know from the Italian supercars. Of course, carrying the theme into the inside, you've got lots of red, lots of green and white. After all, it is an Italian car brand, and you've got the prancing horse throughout. It is very much a Ferrari project and something which is quite different. Now, Green Sabbath is a name on BitTech that goes back quite a long way. In fact, some of his early projects were a few of my favourites back when I was first getting into modding. Morphosis is a project that brought him back into the fray with something really quite special in Cooler Master's SL600M chassis. He basically reworked the entire interior using wooden paneling and a sort of a tree Voronoi structure to add a visual interest throughout. It uses a chrome-tubed water cooling loop just to accent with the aluminium panels and the beautiful finished walnut all throughout the inside. It's an impeccably clean mod and really something very special and unique. Project Anubis by Ronnie78 is a really interesting take on the Cougar Conquer chassis. Now, most of the builds in this particular chassis tend to be automotive themed because it sort of carries through a motorbike look to it, but taking cues from the Minimalistic side of things is quite different. So what Ronnie did is he made new panels out of acrylic, and he attached them together to make a sort of Anubis dog head in a sort of a polygonal fashion. He's then also coated them in mirror vinyl to have a really smooth finish throughout. The interior is finished with a beautiful water cooling loop that keeps the whole interior very elegant and open, along with detailing such as the springs on the back that just add, again, a little bit of a technological feel to the whole build. Now I hope you enjoyed all the builds there. Now remember, this is just an overview of the Casemods category. I really do implore you to go take a look through the links below and actually see the project logs and all the work that's gone into these builds, because we can only really go through so much detail in one of these videos, and there's so much to say about some of them. Many of them have gone on for months and months, some even years. So to be able to condense all that information into a short space of time means we're always going to lose a little bit of content. So definitely look through the logs. I can assure you it's going to be great. Now make sure you also get your votes in. You'll be able to do that on the page linked below. We're going to have an email set up so you can email us with your votes, because after all, the winner is in your hands. So take care. I'll see you next time.